feeling is similar to that of a parent watching his child growing up and leaving the nest. I'm now sending my beloved child out into the big world to make a name for itself. The Scout Zero was by far the most difficult project we did, but it was very personal from the very beginning. I live in the flatlands and I got frustrated of not having as much paragliding as I wanted. The task was very simple. Just take a regular paragliding harness, add a small engine with a propeller and nothing more. And the nothing more part was the most difficult. Adding a motor to a paragliding harness without turning it into a paramotor was a true challenge. Now that the Scout is finished after 6 years of development, there is a sense of pride and accomplishment, but also anticipation and a lot of tension. I'm on a mission to visit the first Scout Zero pilots and to hear their stories. I wanna hear what they liked about it, what they disliked about it, but also I want to know how it changed their paragliding for the better. And I hope to have some good flights with them too.
We are somewhere in Belgium, close to the French borders. We are about to visit Ivo Gins. He's a test pilot for the Scout Zero, so he's participating on the project for a little more than 2 years, maybe. But it will be the first time I'm gonna meet him.
I'm Ivo. I'm 40 years old. I live in Belgium, and I started paragliding in 2019. So I first started paramotoring, and after flying in the paramotor for like a month or 3, I started paragliding, and I started also flying into thermals. And from then on, all I wanted to do was fly in the thermals because it was like the engine of the nature, and I really liked how it felt. Paramotor guys. I get bored on a paramotor normally, and when the engine is too loud, I want just to put it off. Those thermal flights with my paramotor, it felt a little bit awkward. Yeah, it's a special feeling being in that cage with those hang bars. And when I joined the team, I sold all my paramotor gear, well, my new wing, my new engine, everything went out of the door, just because I just wanted to fly my normal paragliding wing in thermal conditions, and the Zero was like the solution for that for me. So the Zero is not really for paramotor pilots. I would say it's really different. It's just, it's a cocoon paragliding harness with an engine. It's a great alternative, but just to be sure to fly that day. Nice.
Cold beer. Cold beer. There you go.
it's like an addition to the sport. It can't really replace paragliding because paragliding has some purity to it. You're taking off from a hill, you're into the nature, you're just using the thermals. The Zero is actually for those days where the thermals are really not strong enough or the takeoffs are not available or too crowded. That's, I think, is the main purpose of the Zero, is to give really a pilot more flying hours in his day.
It was getting better after. Thank you very much.
It was cool to fly together, so that's nice.
Thank you, man.
Like a small gaggle, so that's
Left of me was the CTR. In the right there were all fields with growing tulips, and I don't want to destroy them, so I was a bit in a pickle where to land. Small sweets over there. And then, after 5 minutes, I remembered, why do I not start the motor again, the engine, to get more altitude again? So I was so into the thermaling and like flying in the mountains that I really forgot that I was able to get altitude again. I'm Peter. I'm born in the Netherlands, so flat country, but since I was 18 years old, I went to the mountains a lot, every weekend, climbing mountains. Every 4,000 meter peak I've climbed. Became a mountain guide. I was looking at other ways to make more airtime in the Netherlands and combine it with some kind of teaching or having a paramotor school. And then I went into paramotor flying. Yeah, paramotoring is the only way in the Netherlands to get high enough to even catch a thermal. But if you're coming from mountain sports and paragliding, it gets a bit boring. And to get it more like competition or sporty, then you have to thermal, to play with nature, and I was still searching for that. When the Scout Zero arrived, I think that's the one that I was waiting for already a few years. So I was really eager to try it and to be part of the test team. At first it was a bit confusing and complicated to put a harness on, because that one you had to put on like a backpack and it felt a bit strange. Takeoff was really strange with the torque effect, but when you're in the air it all made sense. The best thing when thermaling is the position you have. It's like free flying with your legs stretched and your back inclined. And the weight shifting is way better, so you can easily get into small thermals as well. And it's not so heavy and bulky and less drag than a normal paramotor. So I think it's a completely new discipline, something between paragliding and paramotoring, and then it's not cheating. We need a totally different way of looking at this.
Nico is a very interesting person and probably the ideal customer that we could wish for. He visited us in Slovakia some time ago, had a test flight with the Scout Zero, loved it on the first try. He was so spot on, he understood everything about it in a minute, and he placed an order, received his Scout Zero a week ago, and since then he had 7 flights.
Wie geht's?
7 Tage, 7 Mal geflogen.
Ja, genau.
Das, was ich gesucht habe und was es lange nicht gab, ist halt wirklich eine Art Abenteuer-Expeditions-Setup zu haben. Ich komme aus Deutschland, hier Niedersachsen, und das ist so ziemlich man sagt immer, die norddeutsche Tiefebene. Und hier gibt es halt nicht so wirklich viele Möglichkeiten, wie du fliegen kannst. Ich komme auch aus dem Freiflugbereich und ich mag nicht besonders Motoren. Und mittlerweile habe ich den Motor auch ganz lieb gewonnen, weil man kann halt dann ein ganz neues Spielform machen, man kann so ein bisschen Hybrid fliegen. kann sehr schwache Tage nutzen, wo sehr weit oben, erst 700, 800 Meter Höhe, die Thermik anfängt. Oder auch im Winter, die Winterthermik. Und dann kann man halt da hinfliegen und sich direkt absetzen und dann halt treiben lassen. Also du kannst mit einem Paramotor Thermik fliegen und das funktioniert auch. Das ist so ein bisschen wie Laufen, Joggen mit Bergstiefeln und nicht mit Joggingschuhen. Aber das Problem ist, du hast immer eine relativ aufrechte Sitzposition und du hast immer ein indirektes Gefühl von der Thermik. Und beim Scout Zero ist es halt nicht mehr so. Sobald er aus ist, ich habe ein Freiflug-Setup, es ist auch ein Sub-Air-Gurtzeug und es fühlt sich genau an wie mein Freiflug-Gurtzeug. Und wenn es dann doch mal verkackt, dann musst du halt noch mal kurz anmachen, musst noch mal ein bisschen schieben und so kriegst du viel Airtime und Training. Also ich würde den Zero ganz klar für die Leute empfehlen, die eher frei fliegen. Es ist auf jeden Fall sinnvoll, wenn man auch schon mal Motor geflogen ist. Also ich empfehle den Leuten einfach ausprobieren. Man muss es mal testfliegen, man muss mal auf dem Rücken aufsetzen und durch die Gegend tragen. Motor mal anschmeißen, mal schön Vollgas geben und sich reinlehnen. Dann merkt man schon mal, wie gut es an den Rücken einfach sitzt, wenn das vernünftig eingestellt ist. Mal einen Hängtest machen. Und ja, dann einfach losgehen, fliegen gehen und dann halt nicht in thermischer Luft, sondern in thermikfreier Luft und dann einfach mal ein bisschen aufsteigen, Motor ausmachen und ohne dass der Motor läuft, abgleiten. Und dann macht es ja schon Klick. 3,2 Meter integriert. 3,7. Und wir arretieren den linken Arm und drehen nur noch.
My wife is great, but you know, I'm not so great. Like my priorities are many times paragliding and flying, and my wife learned from very early on that I go flying when weather is, you know, like I need to go fly, and doesn't matter when I come home when I come home. So, but like I said, priorities changed. We have now a little son. He's awesome. I want to spend time with him, but I don't want to give up my flying. So I said to my wife, okay, Mouse, I'm going flying. And she's like, you know, I have to be at the hairdresser's at 3. I'm like, yeah. She's like, if you're coming too late, I'm actually going to kill you. Like, no, I don't come too late. She's like, you always come too late. I'm like, no, Mom. Okay, let me try. Okay, so guess what? Went out, went flying, took out the Zero, and then I'm flying for 2.5 hours in total, and I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying it, and I'm super happy. And then I check my watch, and I'm like, you know what? I just go down and land. I still have to pack together. I don't know how long it takes, blah, blah, blah. So packed everything together, dumped in the car. So, and then I came home and my wife looked at me and she was like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you are early? I'm like, yeah. And then I thought for a second, I'm like, wow, I had to spend $12,500 to get home early. That's great. It's expensive, but it's really not. I go 3 times to a flying trip and the money is out. And I can fly between 20 to 25 hours. With this Zero, like the flying is endless, literally endless. And the coolest thing is you get back where you came from. Just like all of us, I think super addicted to paragliding. I fly roughly since 2010. I fly roughly 250 hours a year. I fly planes, I fly paragliders. I'm starting to fly the Zero, which I'm super stoked about. My main focus in my flying career has always been competitions. But life changes, but my flying went always a little bit more back, and I was always more looking to fly safer, even more, but safer. And for me, the answer was always flatland flying. The problem for me is always not the accessibility and time. So I want to spend time with the family, but I also want to fly. And I have to drive 2.5 hours to the next flying site where I don't have to hike. So when you switch the engine off, there's one substantial different thing, and it's all common sense. My risers normally are here, in my paragliding harness, and at 0, it's here. So obviously you have 15 kilos on your back. The geometry of the harness is different. That's the reason why the hang point is different, and it has to be closer to you. That's the only difference I can really feel. I want to get something out of it, and what I want to get out of it is flight time. That's what I want. I want flight time. So, I don't care what it does, as long as it brings me up and I can turn the engine off and it makes beep, 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 beep. Das ist meine wundervolle Frau.
Hallo Victoria, ich habe so viel Schönes über dich gehört gerade.
Das hoffe ich mal, oder?
Ja.
Du leidest genug, ne?
Ich leide genug, genau. Ja.
Vielen Dank für die Unterstützung.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, wir sehen uns. Ciao.
I'm Boruto. I'm coming from Slovenia. I fly now almost 23 years. I fly with just a paraglider, and yeah, now I have experienced this 0. Yeah, I have then sell the paramotor because I'm not the guy who just want to fly in the morning or in the evening, because I like thermaling. I like quiet, that you shut down the machine and just quiet. You can soar, find the thermals, go anywhere you want. I have to travel around 2 to 3 hours that I can reach a really good mountains to fly. How the 0 make my life better? Yeah. With 0, I'm ready to fly in 15 minutes when I leave my home. What should we improve on 0 now?
You like it as it is?
I like it as it is. We have made a lot of changes, but I think the last version is really good.
It's very interesting for me to see how differently the pilots use the Scout Zero. I mean, it always does the same thing. It allows you to take off in the flatland, switch off soon after, and do the thermals. But all the pilots, they use it for different purposes and different needs. So Steven, for example, he's pretty much like me. Now, as he has a family, he doesn't have so much time to fly. So basically uses the Scout Zero to fix his frustration. But Ivo is a different case. He does have the time to travel to the nearest hills, and he does it anytime the conditions are great. But he uses the Zero on the days with not so perfect conditions, when it's not worth it to travel that far. And this way he maximizes his paragliding experience. Peter is in a different case again. He has the time, but he doesn't have the hills at all. So for him, the Zero is the only way to do paragliding in the Netherlands. And also he's cheating around the restricted airspace because that's the only way to have some airtime. So flying is better than not flying. And then Nico, wow, very special pilot. He will remove the foam protector and put his sleeping bag and mattress and just load it up for some multi-day paragliding, paramotor adventures, whatever you call it. Now the feedback also reminds me that not everything runs smoothly. The Zero is a beautiful, wonderful, magical problem child. Firstly, it's so different. Some people love it on the first try, but probably it will need a few flights to really get to know and understand the Scout Zero. So patience is required. Another problem we are facing that it's pretty difficult to find dealers for such a different product as the Scout Zero. Paragliding schools and instructors, they're usually located at the mountains, so they don't need the Scout Zero. On the other side, paramotor schools that are located in the flatlands, those instructors rarely do paragliding as well. And the unicorn instructors in schools that do both paragliding and paramotoring and are located in the flatlands, those are very few. The money-back guarantee might be a solution for both problems. If you're interested in Scout Zero and you don't have the opportunity to see it in real, then just get one. Fly it for 21 days, as much as you wish, because flying a little more is required to getting used to it. And then if it doesn't serve you, send it back. If you have your expectations right, that means you want a climb assist to take off in the flatland, switch off and go paragliding, then I'm pretty confident that you're going to love it.